Hello there, friends. It's Jimmy Maverick. Welcome to another edition of the Fantasy Maverick podcast. And today, we're going to analyze the fourth-round running backs versus the fourth-round wide receivers and talk about what I call the break. This is the point in the draft where the wide receivers become significantly better value than the running backs going forward, and why you need to adjust your draft strategy to account for that. So here we go.
Listen up. It's time for the Fantasy Maverick podcast, starring the guy who's going to help you win that fantasy championship, Jimmy Maverick.
Hello there, friends. It's Jimmy Maverick. Welcome to another edition of the Fantasy Maverick podcast. And today we are going to talk about the fourth round analysis of running backs versus wide receivers and what I call the break. And this is the point in the draft where everything should shift as far as your draft strategy goes because of the types of players that are available after this point. So let's get into it. But before we do, hey, if you haven't done so already, please be sure to like this video, leave a comment, of course, share it with your friends, and of course, subscribe and hit that little bell if you want to be notified as to when I do new podcasts. As I said, I'm trying to do 3 a week right now, doing a couple of mock drafts, a mock draft, an actual draft, and of course some just talking about players. And so that's what we're going to do for this one today. So here's what it comes down to. I've always been a big proponent of going robust running back, where you just take 3 running backs in the first 3 rounds. And the reason I say this is because by the end of the 3rd round, all of the top 50 value running backs, the players with top 50 value overall, are gone. And it makes sense because when you look at the makeup of the first 3 rounds of the draft, here's typically what you'll find, especially, this year. You're going to find in the first 36 picks that there's going to be 20 running backs taken, 12 wide receivers taken. Probably all 3 of the elite tight ends are going to go in the first 3 rounds this year. And then Patrick Mahomes. That's your 24. So you already know that by the time the 4th round goes around, most of your fantasy relevant running backs are already off the board. But here's what I discovered when I looked at it. Basically, when you get to the 4th round, let's just go over the players. So for running backs, here's who's going out in the 4th round right now. You've got Josh Jacobs at number 37, Myles Gaskin at number 41, Kareem Hunt at number 43, Mike Davis at number 45, Travis Etienne at number 48. All these guys are low-end 2s to high-end flexes. That's what we're looking at. And it makes sense because there have been 20 other running backs that have been taken. It would make sense that Josh Jacobs is currently valued as the RB21. So that makes perfect sense. He actually is the most valuable player of that bunch. I have him valued as my 43rd most valuable player overall. So he does offer top 50 value. And he is in half-point PPR. I have him projected to score 187 points. So he's kind of your best option for the 4th round if you're going to go running back. But here's the thing you need to look at when you're looking at the makeup of your team is that at this point, you are going to sacrifice your team points to take one of these players. And the reason why I say that is because let's look at the wide receivers who are currently going in the 4th round. And for that, you've got Amari Cooper at number 38, Mike Evans at number 39, Chris Godwin at number 40, CeeDee Lamb at number 42, Julio Jones at number 44, Robert Woods at number 46. Now, we already know, because I already said that only 12 wide receivers typically go out in the first 3 rounds, that these guys, in fact, are high-end 1s to middle round 2s as far as wide receiver value. And if you look at the most valuable wide receiver in the 4th round, right now, that would be Mike Evans. Mike Evans currently, actually it's a tie. Mike Evans and Amari Cooper are projected to earn the same amount of fantasy points. They're projected to make 204 fantasy points this year in half-point PPR. That means their value rank is nearly a full round ahead of the best running back that you can get in the 4th round, Josh Jacobs. And when you look at Josh Jacobs can get get you 187 fantasy points versus Amari Cooper, who could get you 204 fantasy points. We're talking that's about 15 fantasy points over the course of the season. It doesn't sound like much, but this stuff adds up. And this is why the mid-round running backs are so difficult for me, because from this point forward, what you're going to see is that the average value of the wide receiver players in any given round is going to be way, way better than the average value of the running backs going in that same round. So you're basically going to be hurting your team by taking running backs over wide receivers once you get past round 4. And really, that's why I'm so big on loading up on wide receivers in rounds 4 through 8, because they offer fantastic value, especially relative to the running backs. Running backs kind of fall off a cliff. I mean, after the 4th round, their value ranks just plunge. And by the 7th round, most of the running backs that are available, their value ranks are in the hundreds. They're already way into the hundreds, whereas you can still get value rank 50 to 60, for wide receivers in the 7th round, in the 8th round, even in the 9th round. I mean, it's just the wide receiver position is much, much deeper. And when you look at the 4th round here, the difference between the best wide receiver and the worst running back. Now, in this case, the lowest rated running back is Mike Davis. Current value rank is 63rd overall, projected to earn 173 points. When you compare that against Amari Cooper and Mike Evans, who can get you 204 points, now we're talking over 30 fantasy points over the course of the season. That's a significant difference. And so to go and at Mike Davis's point at pick number 45, knowing that you could get someone like Robert Woods, who's going to get you more points every week than he will on average, you're just in a much better position to take a wide receiver in round 4 as opposed to one of these running backs. And it's not that I necessarily don't like these running backs, because there's a couple on here that I'm actually very big on. I mean, Josh Jacobs with top 50 value, Travis Etienne currently values as the 49th most valuable player. So they're both top 50 value picks that you can get in the 4th round. That's good, but we're talking these are low-end 2s. That's what these guys are. They are low-end 2s versus getting yourself a high-end wide receiver 2, borderline wide receiver 1. I mean, when I gave you that list of wide receivers, really any of those guys could be a 1. Easy. I mean, they usually are. I mean, Amari Cooper is usually a 1. Julio Jones is usually a 1. Mike Evans is usually a 1. And then you got guys, high upside guys. CeeDee Lamb, one of my favorite options. Robert Woods, absolutely rock solid guy. Last year, I think he was the wide receiver 14. It's very easy for him to, with maybe 1 or 2 extra touchdowns, he could be a wide receiver 1. It's very easy for that to happen. Chris Godwin, another guy who disappointed last year, but again, high upside play, and all these guys have the potential to be wide receiver 1s. When you look at the other list, the running backs, it's a much harder slog for those guys to become RB1s. It just doesn't really seem to be in the cards. Josh Jacobs is now sharing time with Kenyon Drake. Kareem Hunt obviously has Nick Chubb. You got Myles Gaskin. He's a low reliability player. He can easily just miss some games, and then there's no way you're going to be an RB1 if you miss games. Mike Davis, potentially, because there's not really a lot of competition in that backfield. Travis Etienne, again, you've got James Robinson already there. And I believe you also have Carlos Hyde. I think he's also on the team too. So it's just, it's hard for me to make the case that you should take a running back in the 4th round over one of these wide receivers, just for the overall strength of your team. So that's what I wanted to talk to you about. So, and really, when you look going forward from the 4th round, again, the gap just continues to widen, because, when we're getting to the 5th round, who are you looking at here? Well, for running backs, you're looking at flex options. But with wide receivers, you're looking at low-end 2s. So again, it's a great round to get yourself another wide receiver as opposed to going for a guy who maybe has flex value. So that's where we're coming at. And I invite you to go check out my app, My Perfect Fantasy Draft, because it really lays this out. One of the things I really want to do on the app, one of my goals in creating the app, is to really give you apples to apples comparisons between these players. And so the value ranks are a great way to compare how valuable player A is versus player B. How many points are they going to score relative to one another? And you can actually utilize that ranking number to see that, oh, this player is more valuable than this player. That's easy to see on the app. And so it's something that I really strive for. Again, all of my main criteria, the value, the outlook, the reliability, and the consistency, it's all meant to be apples to apples comparisons. So if you've got a 5-star wide receiver versus a 3-star running back, typically you're going to see that 5-star wide receiver is better rated overall. The VORC score overall is higher, and that's the kind of player that you want because there's more things going for him. With outlook, it's what I call the intangibles, good things and bad things about their situation. The good things add stars, bad things take away stars, and it's just sort of like, okay, so this is their overall score. They're +2 stars, they're +3 stars. And that's what you want to see. You don't want to see a guy who's like -1 star or only +1 star. It's just not enough. You need more there to know what they're doing. So, but I wanted to, like I said, I wanted to round this out. And I don't know if you noticed this, but that was the players I listed. That's a total of 11. Who's the 12th player? It's Josh Allen. Josh Allen, the quarterback, is also a guy that goes in the 4th round. So, again, we're just talking running backs versus wide receivers here. So that's I wanted to bring that to your attention, and I wanted to show you why it's important to shift to wide receivers in the 4th round. And really what I've been doing in most of my drafts, again, I've been going 2 running backs in the first 3 rounds and getting one of the elite tight ends. It's very important to get that. But then, when you're talking about the 4th and 5th round, that you can get yourself someone like, for me, CeeDee Lamb, and then Cooper Kupp, or maybe Amari Cooper and Cortland Sutton. I mean, there's so many great options of wide receivers in the 4th and 5th round, as opposed to running backs where they're really just kind of, you're going into certainly not workhorses, certainly players that have reliability issues and are in timeshares. That's what you're facing versus really legitimate number 1 or number 2 receivers on these teams. So anyway, so that's it. So thank you very much for watching. I hope this was informative to you. If you have any questions about any of these players or anything else, please leave a comment down below. I do appreciate it. And don't forget to like the video. And anyway, I will talk to you soon. Have yourself a great fantasy day.